Hello Criterion fans, it is I, Elliot, and in this video I want to take you through 10 of my favourite Criterion Collection releases from 2021. I know we're almost at the end of February, but I'm still reflecting on some of my favourite discs from last year. Now I have trouble narrowing down these lists. I'm just very bad at making a final decision on what I'm going to include, so I had to give myself some extra rules for this video. I decided that I'm not going to talk about any of Criterion's 4K releases and also none of their box set releases from last year. I feel like a lot of those releases have already had a lot of fanfare about them and people have them on their radars already. So I want to shine a light on some of the titles, the single film titles, that may not have gotten as much love as they should have done last year. As always, I'll include some purchasing links down in the description box below, so if you do happen to buy any of these using those links, it does help support the channel at no additional cost to you, and it is greatly appreciated. So let's get on with the show. The first title that I want to talk about is this little film, Ashes and Diamonds, from the filmmaker Andrzej Wajda. This is a Polish film set at the end of World War II, just as the war has been won and the Nazis are retreating out of Poland. However, the Nazis leaving Poland is a bit of a bittersweet moment because it's giving Russia the opportunity to encroach on the Polish people and take some power themselves. The story follows this freedom fighter called Maciek, played by Zbigniew Cybulski, who was said to be the Polish James Dean of his time. And he is very stylish, very cool, calm and collected. And he has been tasked with assassinating someone. However, on his mission, he ends up falling in love. And this sets him on a path of rediscovery and working out, is he really where he wants to be in life? And is what he's fighting for the right thing to fight for? It's a great wartime thriller with moments of satirical comedy, and the film looks absolutely stunning with some of the most breathtaking cinematography I've ever seen personally. It's worth noting as well, this is from a new 4K digital restoration, so it does improve upon the old Arrow Academy Blu-ray that I had for many years, and there's a bunch of great special features including an audio commentary on the disc as well. So if you're looking for something to get in the sale and you're a fan of political wartime thrillers in the vein of perhaps Jean-Pierre Melville, then this is one to definitely check out. Moving on to the world of film noir, I really loved this next disc. It is Nightmare Alley, and this recently got a new readaptation or remake from Guillermo del Toro, which I haven't seen yet, but I really do want to see now after watching this disc. It's one of the great film noirs that was set around the carnival and this central character who is a deceptive man full of deceit, and he makes this living as a charlatan spiritualist who says that he can, speak with the dead, and that kind of thing still goes on to this day. The thing that I love so much about this film is that, like all great film noirs, you know that it's not going to end well for the characters in this film, and you really see the character of this man as he comes to terms with his own morality and questioning, is he doing something very terrible in essence. It's just a great exploration of those themes set against this backdrop of the carnival with this stunning contrast of black and white cinematography. The disc is using a new 4K digital restoration and it looks amazing. And this film was very hard to see for the longest time, so the fact that it has finally come to Blu-ray from Criterion, I was very pleased with. A nice little extra as well is inside the case. It comes with the different tarot cards that are featured in the film. So that's just one of those nice little touches that Criterion like to add on certain releases. And, it just adds to the whole fun and appreciation of the package. Next up is Deep Cover. I spoke about this one recently in my top 10 boutique Blu-rays of last year, and this has genuinely been one of my favourite discs of last year. I'll try not to retread too much of what I said in that last video, but what I found in this film is a great neo-noir set in LA about this cop who goes deep undercover to try and bust this drug trafficking ring. What I liked so much about this film is the expressive colours and also the sometimes crazy nature of the characters in the film. You never really guess what's going to happen next because some of these characters really are unhinged, and that makes it for some very exciting viewing. Again, it's taken from a new 4K digital restoration, which looks amazing on this Blu-ray. And then there's a bunch of special features that really helped my appreciation and love of this film. So one I would recommend to pretty much anyone. It's a lot of fun. And this is available in the UK as well on a Region B disc, because that's what this one is. So yeah, if you're in the UK or in the US, definitely give this one a shot. This next film absolutely blew me away when I watched it on the Criterion disc. It is Minding the Gap. This is the documentary that was produced by Hulu, I think, but it is now on a Criterion disc, and genuinely one of the best documentaries I have ever seen. I've seen some people sell this as just a skateboarding documentary, but it's actually so much more than that, because it's looking into the lives of these three central characters, one of them being the documentary maker himself, Bing Liu. There's just a lot of authenticity about the filmmaking in this documentary, and at times it gets very emotional, like some of the most emotional scenes I've ever seen in any documentary. So yeah, totally blew me away. Even if you don't like skateboarding at all, definitely give this one a shot. This next one is an old favourite of mine, certainly from one of the best British filmmakers around. It's Secrets and Lies from Mike Leigh. If you've seen a Mike Leigh film before, you know that he excels at dissecting the relationships between different people, particularly people in families, and just getting to the real raw emotion of these characters. This is aided by the fact that he has such a unique filmmaking process. He actually develops the script with all of the actors as they are rehearsing. So it's really not him that writes the script, it's a real collaborative process. And you can tell by the time that they are filming the film, the actors know these characters inside out and they are these characters. So it adds such an authenticity, a realness to the characters and the performances, and that's what I think makes his films so great. The central idea of the film is that this black woman who has been adopted since she was a child wants to go and find her birth mother, and she discovers that it is this white woman, which is not what she expected at all, and as the viewer, it's not what we expect. And it's with that framework that Mike Leigh and the actors really get into all of the nuances of these relationships. And yeah, it's just a great film. It did also win the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, which is another reason to check this film out. And I loved seeing it on this Criterion disc. It's a new 2K restoration, a bunch of great special features, including a new conversation with Mike Leigh over Zoom, because it was filmed during the pandemic. But nonetheless, a great feature to have on the disc. And again, this is a Region B release as well, so you can pick it up in the UK or in the US. So that's Secrets and Lies. Moving on to something completely different now, I have the film The Ascent. This is directed by Larisa Shepitko. It's a Soviet film set during World War II, and this is one of the most spiritual film experiences I've had in a long, long time. It follows these two soldiers who go out hunting for supplies for their group because they're just stranded in the middle of nowhere in the snow and they don't have much food. And these two soldiers end up falling into the hands of the German forces, and they then have to decide, what do they do? Do they rat out their group, or do they stay true to the cause and be loyal, even if it means them having to sacrifice themselves? I say it's a spiritual experience because of how the film is made. It's shot beautifully with this great use of sound design and so many shots that are evocative of religious imagery, spiritual imagery. There's just so much packed in there, and it is such an eye-opening experience watching this film. Larisa Shepitko is the wife of Elem Klimov, who directed Come and See, which is one of the most harrowing war films I've ever seen, and probably anyone has ever seen. Maybe it would make a good double bill with this film, but that would be a hell of a serious double bill to watch. So maybe avoid that, but if you like Come and See, then this is definitely one to have on your radar. It's another 4K digital restoration from Criterion, a ton of great special features on here as well, and like some of the others, it is a Region B release as well, so you can get this in the UK as well as in the US. Moving back to the world of film noir now, I have High Sierra, the film from Raoul Walsh, starring Humphrey Bogart and Ida Lupino. I had never seen High Sierra before getting this disc, but it's one of those that had been on my watch list for ages, and I was stubbornly holding out for a Blu-ray. I didn't want to watch it in any other way, and when it was announced, gosh, I was so relieved that I would be getting to see this in, its full HD glory. It's a great crime story. Humphrey Bogart playing this criminal who has been in trouble in the past and he wants an easy life now, but he gets roped into this one last job, and naturally, being a film noir, it does not go well. It is brilliantly shot with a screenplay co-written by the novelist W.R. Burnett and filmmaker John Huston. So it's a heck of an experience. I would recommend this to absolutely anyone who loves that period of cinema, the 1940s film noir, just essential. It's from a 4K digital restoration. I'm sounding like a broken record now, but this is a great thing that we're getting all of these brilliantly pristine restorations of these great films. There's a ton of special features, but perhaps, the one that is most notable is another feature film. It's Raoul Walsh's remake of High Sierra called Colorado Territory. So the fact you're getting two films for the price of one and special features, and they look great, this is an essential release from 2021. This next film was long overdue for a Blu-ray upgrade. It's Ratcatcher, the film from Lynn Ramsey. I say this is long overdue for a Blu-ray. It hasn't been released on Blu-ray here in the UK, and it is a Scottish film. So I'm just totally surprised that you guys in the US are getting it before us here in the UK. It's crazy, but I'm glad we are getting it on a Blu-ray finally. The film is stunning on this Blu-ray as well, it has to be said. And it's a story, it's quite a difficult story. The film begins with this central character who we follow, this young boy, who ends up accidentally killing one of his friends as they're playing by a canal. It sounds like a morose film, but it doesn't actually preoccupy itself with that tragic beginning. It's actually more about how does this character then go on to accept what has happened and look at the things in his life, which is a life of poverty in this very poor community in Scotland, and just the hopes of perhaps getting out of this situation eventually. That's what the film is about. It's a film that on the surface it puts itself at risk of being this terribly drab social realist commentary on poverty in poor communities in this country, but it is actually much more than that, because it looks at some of the more magical elements of cinema. There are some real surprises in this film that are just totally breathtaking and not what you would imagine from a filmmaker like perhaps Ken Loach. Again, we're looking at a 4K digital restoration. Like I said, it looks beautiful, and a ton of special features, including some interviews with Lynn Ramsey herself. There's one that was recorded last year, and then one from 20 years ago, so you can actually see the comparison between how she talks about the film now and how she was talking about it back then. So that's just a fun little comparison that you can make with the supplements on this disc. Another film that completely blew me away when I watched it for the first time recently is Original Cast Album Company. This is a music documentary from esteemed documentary filmmaker D.A. Pennebaker. I love so many of his films, and many of them are already in the Criterion collection. His Bob Dylan documentary is one of the greatest of all time. But this one is something completely different to that, because this was Pennebaker being invited to film the cast album recording of the musical Company, which was by the great late Stephen Sondheim. It's only 53 minutes long, but what you get in that is a real intimate look into the lives of these artists who are putting their voices and, well, their entire lives on the line for what they do. Each of the different musical theatre actors have their own character in this film. It's really, breathtaking how D.A. Pennebaker is able to convey all these different characters in such a short running time. Like, it's astonishing. It culminates in this sequence where one of the theatre actors is just trying to get this track done and it's just not working. And it's painful to see her pain as she's trying to get it done, against Stephen Sondheim and the comments he's making to her. It's just a real heartbreaking kind of sequence. Just one of the best things I've seen in the longest time. You know what I'm about to say. It's a new 4K digital restoration, and the film looks amazing for what it is. I didn't actually know before watching this Blu-ray that this film was so hard to see for the longest time. I think it was made for television, and they had planned for a series of these behind-the-scenes recording films, but this was the only one that ever got made. And then I think it was released on a DVD like 20 years ago, which was long out of print and going for absolutely silly money on the secondary market. So for ages, people just hadn't been able to see this, and it had a kind of cult following around the film. So I can totally see why it had that effect on people. Rounding out the release, tons of special features. I always say that about Criterion, but they really do hit it out of the park with most of their releases in terms of the supplements. There is also the spoof documentary Original Cast Album Co-op, which is from the series Documentary Now. That's just a great special feature to have on this. I watched them both back to back, and it was hilarious seeing what they did with the original source material. It is available on a Region B disc as well, so if you're buying from the UK, then this is great because you can get your hands on it. So yeah, absolutely blew me away for the first time. Definitely put this one on your radar. Okay, the last one that I want to talk about in this video is probably one that a lot of people have been talking about, but I had to mention it here because it really was one of the best discs from Criterion in 2021. I'm of course talking about Mirror from the great filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky. Many people had wanted this film to come to the collection for so many years, and this now marks 5 films from Tarkovsky in the collection. So that's 5 of 7. So if we can get the last 2, Nostalgia and The Sacrifice, then we'll have all of his feature films in the Criterion collection. I would say I try and describe this film to you, but it is mostly indescribable. It's very lucid. It's much like dreaming, but also being awake at the same time. It's a film about memory, and you don't necessarily know exactly what you're seeing and how it relates to what came before, but the imagery is so evocative, and I think that is how so many people relate to this film. It's not that this film is telling a clear narrative story, it's that it's showing these cinematic montages, these fragments of different stories, and we can relate to aspects of each one of these. It's said that it is autobiographical to Tarkovsky. I think some of it is, or all of it, is based around his memory of his mother and what she went through growing up and things like that. It's one of those films that I just find so hard to sell to people, not because it's bad, and not because it's necessarily challenging to get into. I just think it's a real experience, and I don't like using that word too much about watching films, but it is an experience. It's from a new 2K digital restoration with some great special features, a documentary made by Tarkovsky's son about his father, and some other great bits on here as well. It's in this special digipack packaging, and it is available in the UK on a Region B release as well. So yeah, what a great release, and hopefully we can see Tarkovsky's other 2 films enter the collection sometime soon. So that was my top 10 Criterion Blu-rays from last year, 2021, not including 4K Blu-rays and box sets. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it serves you well in perhaps informing some of your purchasing decisions during the Criterion sales going forward. Do let me know if any of these titles in particular piqued your interest. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. If you liked this video, hearing me talk about all of these Criterion titles, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, and stick around on the channel because I have tons of other videos going through films in the Criterion collection, so there's a lot to go through if you want more of this type of content. With that said, please do go now and enjoy buying these films and watching them, and just, stay well, keep watching great films.